So you have a budget, you want to buy camera gear, this video is going to give you quite a few options depending on what your budget is and what you plan on shooting. Getting gear under $1,000 actually does not have to be difficult. It's going to have a variation depending on what you anticipate photographing. So first thing, let's start with the camera itself. I am going to recommend the Canon M50 Mark II. I know people who use this professionally, but it's also a very easy to use consumer-friendly camera, and it's not going to break the bank. The M50 Mark II, the body alone, this is only $599. Now, if you have a few extra dollars, you could splurge for the $699 version that has a kit lens included. I'm not recommending that just because it's a variable aperture lens, and I think the lens that I'm going to recommend is going to be a little bit more stable for you and give you a little less frustration, especially if you are just starting out in photography and learning what everything does. The lens that I recommend is already here on the camera. It's the Canon RF24mm f2 lens. This thing is a beauty. Absolutely love this lens, and when it's on the cropped sensor of this camera, it acts closer to like a 40mm. I should probably do the math on that and just tell you how much it acts like it. It acts like a 35mm lens on a full frame camera. So this 22mm lens comes in at $249. So this lens is good if you want to start off photographing people. It's a great people lens. It's good even for things like landscapes, not super wide landscapes, but it's just a nice all-around, very versatile lens. You can photograph groups of people with it, families, individuals, street photography, all of that with this lens. If you're buying this camera and you photograph, let's say, your kids playing sports and you're outside a lot, then I'm not going to recommend this lens for that purpose. Instead, you would go with this lens, and this is the Canon EFM 55-200. So it is a zoom lens, which is going to help you get a lot closer to your kids who are playing and whatever sports they're playing. This lens is a little bit more expensive. It's $349 at the time of this recording, but again, it's about the purpose of what you plan on doing with this camera. Photographing your new baby? Go with the 22. Photographing your kids running around on the playground? Go with this zoom lens. Now, aside from the fact that this lens does zoom, it's also good for being outside because it has a variable aperture. The aperture on this one is 4.5 to 6.3, so it moves around a bit on you, which would absolutely frustrate you if you're photographing indoors, but if you plan on photographing mostly outside, it won't bother you one bit. Now, the nice thing is I've decided to leave a little bit of room in your budget for light, because let's just say, you know what? I do plan on photographing people outside for the most part, but I don't want this lens to be obsolete the second I walk indoors. Of course not. That's where this little flash comes in. This is the Canon EL100, and it is only $149. It's a great flash. You can even move it around to bounce a lot. In fact, I have a great video on this channel that talks just about this flash. It's powerful. You can somewhat adjust the zoom of the light on here and of course move it around, but it plops right on top of the camera. Now, this camera does have a flash right here, but usually it's not as powerful as you want, and it only goes one direction, forward. This is going to give you a lot more freedom in moving it around, and you can create absolutely beautiful professional looking portraits with this. You just got to know how to use it. So this is what I have here. If you go with this whole set right here, this actually brings you under $1,000 at $997. If you decide to go with this lens, it's $50 more, so you're slightly over $1,000. Now, I will say, if you have an extra $500 and you want to go for a $1,500 budget, then you get to get my absolute favorite lens, which I happen to have lost at the time of this recording, and I can't show it to you. It's my absolute favorite portrait lens for this camera. It's the Canon EFM 32mm 1.4. It is a gorgeous lens. Goes all the way down to 1.4, so you can get that beautiful blurry background, and again, it's on a crop sensor, so your 34 turns into beep beep about a 54. It's a gorgeous lens for portraits. You can still use it for families. Definitely not zooming in as much as this 200, but it's my favorite lens. Whenever I shoot this camera, I want that lens on my camera. So if you have an extra $500, that's where you spend it. So what I want to give you now is your professional gear list under $2,500. Actually, I lied. I think it's $35 over $2,500 is what this came to. First of all, you want to start with a solid body, and the new Canon R10 that just came out is definitely a solid choice. Now, this is a cropped sensor, so that's something to consider, that the lenses that you put on it are going to be a little bit tighter, but you know what? It does a really good job, and it allows you to invest more in your lenses. So if you have a $2,500 budget, I would advise you to spend less than half of that on the body itself. That's why I chose the R10. Now let's move on to lenses. The first lens I'm gonna recommend, and if you know anything about me or this channel, you will see that 50mm is just my favorite lens in the entire world. Now, yes, this 50mm is going to seem a little bit more cropped. It's gonna zoom in a bit, 50 times. Let's just do the math for you right here. 50 times 1.6. So it's gonna act like an 80mm lens. Now, depending on what you're planning on shooting, that might be perfect for you. If you're shooting portraits, 80mm, that's your jam. That's where you're gonna go. Now, if you're shooting events, I actually would change this, and I would recommend that you go with the 35. There is an RF35 f1.8 lens that's going to act more like a traditional 50mm lens. So if you are shooting events, I think you should have something a little bit wider, but actually I think you should be spending more on your gear if you're shooting events, so we'll get to that in another video. The problem with going with the 35mm lens, it's gonna cost a bit more. Next up, a lens that you actually will have a harder time finding. But you know what? This is where I want to start talking about something that most people don't talk about when they make these budget videos and how to get this gear for under however many dollars. Nobody talks about this. You are trying to buy quality gear. Do you know what's great about quality gear? It continues its quality level over time, meaning you can buy used pieces of gear. When I was growing up in photography and building my gear set, I bought used gear constantly. But when you buy used quality gear, you really don't have to worry about it pooing out on you. This EF 135mm lens by Canon is hard to come by, but it also means you're gonna find it used most likely, and the price is probably gonna land you around $600, at least from what I found. But the beauty of getting it used, aside from it being just great gear, is how much less it's gonna cost. Now, this is an EF mount lens, so you are going to have to put this adapter on that I have on top that lets it convert to a mirrorless camera. This is only $99 though, don't worry, $100, not gonna break the bank on that. And then honestly, it opens up a whole world of used lenses you could buy on top of this, because you certainly can find quite a few EF used lenses that will do a beautiful job with this little converter going right to the R10, and will serve you for so many years. I didn't want to talk about professional photography gear, which is really what this is, without talking about light. Now you guys are looking at this and you're like, oh, Vanessa, that's a Profoto, and yes it is, but you know what? You can get this used as well. Brand new Profoto lights are absolutely expensive because, well, a lot of reasons, and we're just not gonna go there. You guys can go there in the chat, or perhaps tell me why godox is better, but everybody knows if you're looking at two things, one's $100 and one's $1,000, there's a darn good reason, other than the brand name, that one costs $1,000. Call it convenience, quality, customer service, pick something. Anyway, end rant. So this A1 you can grab for, what'd I find it for? Oh, $680. So you can grab this for about $679 from the sources that I found online, and it's a perfectly good light. If you have a little extra money and you want to go to a strobe, try finding one of the Profoto B2s. That is a fantastic strobe. Again, super high quality, so buying it used won't be a problem, and it'll last you a bazillion years. Let me show you the lineup I have for you if you have $5 to buy. First of all, the Canon camera that I have right here is not what I'm recommending, so listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. Do not look at this. Do not look at this. You must listen, because I'm recommending the R6. I just don't own it. I have the R7 here with me today. So the Canon R6 is a great camera. It is a full frame mirrorless camera, beautiful focusing technology. You cannot go wrong. So many of the photographers that work for me shoot with the Canon EOS R6. Now, this is where you're gonna spend just a little bit of a chunk of money at $24.99. If you have $5,000 and you are a professional photographer, you're gonna wanna spend about half of that on your camera itself, because your camera is most likely gonna be a workhorse and you need it to work as fast as you do, as hard as you do, and be as durable as you are. So that's why we're going with the R6 to start. Now from there, I actually have a lot of lenses that we can put in your budget. First one that I recommend is is this it? Yeah, this is it. The Canon RF50mm 1.8 lens. This is such a versatile lens. You will use this all the time, and for $179, why wouldn't you put it into your budget? I mean, you're gonna be able to use this for portraits, groups, wider photos, not quite like landscape, but definitely something if you're trying to get maybe like a bride and groom in one part and like a little bit more of a wide frame and you run away for a little bit. You can also get close-ups and details. This is a lens you absolutely want to have on your arsenal. The next lens that I recommend is actually not here, because again, I don't own everything, so listen to what I am saying. Do not look at these lenses. All right, this 16mm, which actually I really do love this lens, this 16mm. This is not the one I'm recommending, but it's representing the Canon RF24mm 1.8 lens, which comes in at $600. If you're shooting events, you're shooting corporate, you're doing something professional, you need to have a wider lens to get those wider shots. And the 24 is going to do it for you without a lot of distortion on the edges. So this lens right here, I'm not telling you to get the 16, I mean do it if you want to, but it's representing a 24mm. I also have a lens which you should not look at, but listen to what I am saying. This one is representing the Canon RF85mm f2 lens. Truth be told, I am a huge fan of the RF85mm 1.2, but we're working with a $5,000 budget, so we're going with the f2 version. It's a great version. It's absolutely stunning portrait lens. You can go down to f2, get your blurry background, get your bokeh, and you'll be all set. All right, so that's what that is representing. Again, don't look at it. Before we get any further in this video, let me tell you about this video sponsor, Squarespace. I have been using Squarespace for probably over a decade. Squarespace is a platform where you can create beautiful custom websites in just a few minutes. Choose from a plethora of templates where you can easily plug and play your own work. It's an all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. We all know that an online presence is crucial for your brand, so build one that stands out. Head over to this link for my exclusive 10% discount on your first domain at Squarespace. Now back to the video. When you're on a budget, you buy used things. Yes, you do, especially if it's used quality. So I have two L series lenses, and I'm gonna recommend one of them, and the other one is a little bit of a splurge, as well as a used piece of lighting. This lens, I actually have a whole video here on my YouTube channel dedicated to this EF135 f2 lens. It is a gorgeous lens. Brand new, this thing was about $1,000, but you can find this used for about $500 or $600. So that's not a bad deal for a lens that goes all the way down to f2, nice and long. Now it is an EF, so you do have to spend a whopping $100 for the adapter that lets you use the EF lenses on the RF mount on the mirrorless cameras. But $100 for that, no big deal. Especially since if you do have an extra $1,300, now this one is not in the $5,000 little section that we're talking about, but if you want to boost your budget to $6,300, then you could even get one of these babies. And this is a used EF70-200 2.8 lens, but it's the Mark II, not the Mark III, so it's not the most updated, it's one behind it, but it still has all the image stabilization on it, which I think is key for a 70-200 lens. You just want that. You can get the Mark I version if you want to, the original, it's gonna be even less, but I think the Mark II is where you wanna go. So this will cost you about $1,300 used. Again, that's kind of the plus. This right here is the $5,000 package, but if I can upsell you another 13, you get the long lens too. Let's talk about light, because if you're a professional photographer, you absolutely need some good light. And what I would recommend is Profoto. Now, one of the reasons I'm gonna recommend Profoto is because if you are a professional photographer, eventually you're gonna go strobe, and eventually you're gonna want this flash to talk to your strobes. So you wanna start off in the correct ecosystem that you want to grow in. If you know that eventually you want Profoto lights and you want those kinds of strobes, and you buy a cheap flash that doesn't talk to those lights, you're only gonna have to rebuy later. Let's avoid rebuying anything and just buy something used. So this represents, it's actually the A1X, but we're gonna have it represent the original Profoto A1. And you can grab a Profoto A1 used for, what did I find it for? $679. Not bad at all. Super great quality. It's the same quality, honestly, you see in the A1X and the A10. There's some little bit of updates, a little bit better battery life, but buy an extra battery. And the A10 has Bluetooth enabled. So you don't get some of the newest perks, but it's still darn good. And then you have the chance to grow. You can grow into the B10s, which I absolutely love and use. Those are amazing. Oh, well, I just might as well show it. I mean, it's just sitting right here. So eventually, as you expand, you know, this will end up being able to go to this. And yeah, this is a bunch of money, but you know what? You can get the discontinued B2s if you could find those used. Those are very light, portable, completely comparable. Now, of course, you want the newest and greatest, but trust me when I say this, buy some things used. That's it. Hey, can you stop right there and I can tell you just a little secret? I have something called Photo Insiders that you might want to be a part of. Photo Insiders is a master educational community for photographers where you will learn the ins and outs of things like posing, lighting, flash, continuous lighting, and a mix of all of them. With new educational videos every single month, behind the scenes and on location shoots with real clients, not models. This is just fun stuff. Watch how I troubleshoot my way out of situations. Did that flash? See my camera settings and see my images raw as they come out of the camera. Exclusive content that you will not see anywhere else. High-speed sync allows you to raise... You could watch a million YouTube videos and still not get your questions answered. But within the community of Photo Insiders, you'll be able to ask your questions that I will answer in live group coaching calls. Never feel lost or frustrated behind the camera again, but instead confidently create the photos that you envision every single time. Inside the community, you can also talk shop and collaborate with other photographers, so you can not only elevate your craft together, but boost your marketing and overall business too. You'll have access to all of my bonus materials, things like contracts and my email templates that are sure to put money in the bank. I wish I had something like this 20 years ago when I first started learning photography. Join my exclusive community at Photo Insiders and learn alongside a group of creatives that are going to help you elevate your craft. See you there. I hope I've given you some information on what you can buy with a $1,000, $2,500, or $5,000 budget. There's certainly endless possibilities and endless combinations, so let me know in the comments if this helped you. Please share this video because a lot of people have this question and I know it will benefit someone. Hit like, subscribe, ring the bell. I'll see you next time. Bye.